running Responsive Conference for the last 4 years, I put on one of those very small events that I did in the early days at a 50-year-old nonprofit in San Francisco, in the Mission District, with the homeless encampment right outside. And 3 weeks before the start of that event, I found out that it was a restaurateur who was trying a new concept. It was a little bodega. And the bodega was going out of business. They sold eggs by the dozen and cartons of milk. And it was going out of business, I believe, 4 or 5 days before the start of this 150-person event that I was putting on. It was a day-long thing. I think it was like $100 to attend. And I wanted to have coffee and tea to all of my people. And I found out 3 weeks before the start of my event that it was not going to happen. This was April of 2016. And so, being the masochist that I am, what do? You start up a restaurant and a cafe and an event space in the Mission. I had lived in that neighborhood 10 years. I knew that that area was on the rise. And for me, I really wanted to practice, not just preach. I didn't just want to curate Responsive Conference and have these amazing people on stage. For me, it was the putting into practice of what is it actually like to build a self-sufficient organization in something as challenging as food service? What does it actually mean to hire on new people and train them and onboard them and provide them a great place to work, right? And when I mess up, that's on me, right? And to own that with my employees. So we grew the cafe from 0 to a bit under $1 million in gross, 16 employees in 2.5 years. And I sold it in November of last year after 9 months of legal negotiations, which was not my favorite part. But the journey of both of those, one of the things we did really well at the cafe, and the reason that Angela is in this room in many ways, I was really good at storytelling. I lived in that neighborhood for 10 years. I could paint the picture of what that parking lot across the street was going to become. I walked the streets. I knew everyone in the neighborhood, right? It was my hood. It was my place. So even though I had specifically designed the cafe from the beginning so that I wasn't behind the counter, right after day 3 or day 4, like I was not ever serving coffee behind the counter, but I was telling the story of my employees. I was telling the story of my organization. We had more than 10,000 people on a newsletter. We had a really active Instagram. We had all of this going on. And the only regret I have from that successful exit was about 2 weeks after I sold the cafe, and I woke up one morning and I said, oh shit, I made a mistake. I did not do enough to tell the story, right? I did all of these things, I did it well, but I didn't have money to hire Angela in 2016, and I should have. Because if I could today show you a video of the first day of Robin's Cafe, that would have been so much bigger than just telling the story today. It would have forced me to figure out Facebook advertising way earlier than I did. It would have hit Instagram in 2016, which is when they launched Instagram Stories, right? You can advertise extremely locally. And I would have been able to tell the story of my employee, Frank, who was a no-call, no-show. And I spent 3 weeks looking for him. And then I found his brother on Facebook, and his brother called me up and said, hey, your employee, Frank, isn't going to come in again because he was just hit and killed by a train, right? And we had a memorial at the cafe, but like that's the reality of business, right? That all of us face. And what if I could create a video of Frank and show Frank, he was the banana bread recipe that the cafe still serves is Frank's recipe. He was a chef. He came in on his first day and was just like, oh, you've got all these old bananas here, let me show you, right? And I remember that. My employees from back in the day remember that. But the customers that made up our base, and we got to the place where we were seeing 250 customers a day, those are the stories that would resonate with them. And if I had invested even more in the storytelling, not just me being me talking, but Instagram, YouTube, advertising, right?